Mike Bohn here with Derek Brunson, fresh off a huge main event win over Darren Till, UFC Fight Night 191. Derek, it's been a couple days now. I don't know if you've watched the fight or anything, but if so, what do you grade your performance?
Yeah, I watched the fight. I always try to watch it like when I get back to the hotel, whether it's good or bad. I watched the fight. Grade my performance. I would say a B plus. You know, I was a little injured this camp, so I could have been a little bit sharper in the stand up area. But nonetheless, we made some improvements. Henry was saying, when we get to the ground, we need to do damage there. So we did that this time. So yeah, B plus.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of injuries. You also mentioned the stuff going on with your parents and COVID and everything like that. Like, can you tell us how hard really was, the entire camp from not just the physical side, but the mental side, and how close were you to maybe not fighting on Saturday?
Yeah, man, there was a lot of adversity. I mean, but that's life. We're not. We always try to think that we're here forever and we're always going to be here forever, but that's the reality we have to face. Is that we have to, like, I guess, live in the moments. But when I was headed to camp down to Sanford, my parents was headed to the hospital the exact same day. So yeah, they had a crazy battle with COVID. My mom was like one step from being on like a ventilator. But they're recovered now. They're good now. They're finally back home. They were in there for 3 weeks, and yeah, even in training camp, the first week I was there, I get injured. I get kicked in the ribs twice, pretty good, and messed my ribs up pretty good, and I wasn't able to like wrestle or spar for like 3 weeks. I actually got like one sparring session, and that was like the last one before I left to Vegas for the fight.
Wow. So who do you kind of confide in that situation where you're trying to decide, like, is this maybe just too much going on? Should I go be back and be with family? Is there someone kind of you encouraging you to say, keep pushing through? Like, what's kind of the emotional roller coaster there of deciding, I'm just going to keep pushing forward despite all of this stuff?
Well, I'm a Christian guy, so like everything isn't in my control. Sometimes some things you just have to wait out when it comes to injury, when it comes to somebody having COVID. Let's say they're in the hospital, you can't visit. So it's one of those things you have to wait out. And that's kind of where I was at. I just got to kind of let things play out, kind of pray, have faith about it. And that's kind of where I was at. I just, had to let it play out. It wasn't a thing that was going to get better overnight when it was, my parents having COVID with my injury. It wasn't going to get better overnight. It was one of those things that's going to take a little bit of time.
So coming out on the other side of that, then, I mean, how, I guess, big and telling of yourself is this win to be able to go in there, deal with all that, and still win this fight where there was so much riding on this? I mean, if you had to pull out because of all that stuff, I don't think anyone would have blamed you at all. But to go in there and fight through it and then actually win the way you did, what do you learn about yourself in that scenario?
Yeah, that's just a statement of who I am as a person. No matter if things are going bad, I always keep things in perspective, and understand that you just have to find a way to work through situations, problem solve, um, weigh things out in life, and go with the best, most high percentage thing at the current time.
For sure, man. That's a great way to look at it. So you actually get in there with Darren and you get that first takedown in the first round and you did a lot of good damage from on top. Like, was the confidence riding really high once you secured that first takedown? You're like, okay, I kind of got this guy now, or did it build as we got into the second and the third round where you ultimately finished him?
Oh yeah, it build. You can't get one takedown and think that, hey, that's the end of the fight. I like for it to be that way, but guys are so good at that level that they're able to be a little bit tricky, crafty, get back up, maybe minimize the damage. You have a guy like Darren Till, who's a UK guy, but he spent 5 or 6 years in Brazil. You got to think he learned a thing or two on the ground, to be a little bit crafty, but he was able to get back up. I think with 10 seconds in the first round. The second round, he got back up with like a minute left. So, you can't. My mindset was ground and pound and also looking for submissions, when it went to the ground. It wasn't just controlling them, because, a guy like that, if I take him down and just let him rest and just land on him, he's going to get back up second, third, fresh. If I didn't put damage on him in the first round, you could be looking at a whole different fight. I swole his eye up pretty good in the first round, and, that changed the whole fight.
Yeah, and that was your first submission win since 2013, Brian Houston, I believe. How good did that feel to just finish the fight that way?
It felt good. I'm a Henzo Gracie black belt. So it feels good to go out there and get submissions. I have a wicked submission game that I don't show a lot. So whenever I'm able to show it, it's always good.
Yeah, and I know you said at the post-fight press conference that you actually feel sorry for Darren. That was one of your quotes, kind of talking about the loss. Have you ever felt that way about an opponent after beating them before? I mean, I'm sure there's like a certain feeling you don't want to see anyone's dream crushed or anything, but I've never heard you like express it that way. So, is there a particular reason why you felt worse for Darren than maybe some of the other people you beat in your career?
No, I think Darren Till is like a knucklehead. He's like a little badass kid, but I think he's like overall. I think he's a good person. I think he tries hard. I think he tries to do the right thing. I know he's a father also. So yeah, man. I've just been following him, paying attention to him. It seems like he just tries to maximize in everything that he does. I mean, he's a game dude, man. He's a competitor. He comes out there, he walks 3/4 of the way towards you in the octagon, puts his hand up when they calling his name out. Like he's confident he's a game opponent. And I knew that he's the type of guy he was gonna come give me a fight. He was gonna bring the fight to me. So, I don't know, yeah. One of the first times I really felt bad for a guy. I mean, I felt bad for people, but we were both in a spot where we were both trying to maximize, and we both had a lot riding on the fight.
Yeah, for sure. And I think obviously he's much younger than you at this point, so I'm sure he's
Yeah,
got a long road ahead in the sport and stuff like that. Michael Bisping actually came out and said that he had heard Darren tore his ACL 10 weeks out from the fight. I know you had dealt with a lot too, but Darren has been very quiet. He's pretty much just posted a photo with no caption or anything since the fight. What do you think of like Bisping kind of coming out and saying that on his behalf? Do you think that's like something that if Darren wanted to come out there, he should have just said it himself if he wanted it to be public?
yeah, for sure. I mean, but it is what it is. I'm used to people trying to like minimize my wins or trying to, throw a little salt. Not saying Michael was trying to do that, but I mean, all fighters are injured 24/7. Look at myself. Everybody's banged up. It's almost like who's less banged up going into the fight. So that's the game we all of us fighters play. And I seen some like MMA like Instagram page posted that I was injured, he was injured, and all the fighters would comment like, "Hey, that's everybody. That's me. That's every fight." So all the fighters know how it go. Like we're always banged up going into fights. MMA is one of the toughest sports there is. Fans are so critical and judgmental, and we really put a lot into it, and you can't make any mistakes or have a bad night. You can have a bad second and the fight can be over.
Yeah, for sure. That's the game within the game, depending on who gets to the cage healthiest. So, I mean, coming off this, we know what you want. I mean, it's the title shot that you feel should be next, right? But it just seems like almost in this scenario, you might be a victim of timing a little bit. Like if things were normal, I think we would have had Izzy and Robert probably doing
Right.
the rematch like in the next month or two, and it would have been absolutely perfect for you. But because of all the stuff going on, the lockdowns down there, I'm sure the UFC wants to do that fight in New Zealand or Australia. So it's just very complicated. So, I mean, to me, it feels like kind of the three options for you are like wait and see how that fight plays out and hope to fight the winner. Maybe you go into like a backup role or, like we've seen some of these guys who weigh in and train, but I don't know how you feel about, doing all that and still not getting to fight. Or, there's this Jared Cannonier fight out there. You guys are, both fresh options. Neither of you have, fought for the belt yet. So what are you kind of leaning towards? What does your gut tell you that's probably going to be the next move?
Man, we're fresh off a win. I don't know what, like 4 days, 3 days. So
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, obviously I want the title shot. And I'm like, hey, I can wait. I got a lot of businesses or a lot of things going on that like I'm not hurting for money. I like to invest my money smartly. So, but at the same time, I like the fight also. So I just know I'm just really confident. And who's to say Adesanya will even win the rematch? I think it's just, I mean, Whitaker is going to be able to make some adjustments, and it's going to be a closer fight. But I'm just confident in myself, and I know what I can do, and I know where I'm headed. So I really want to get my hands back in there, and also, yeah, I talked to my management yesterday, and I asked for the option too, is to have me training just in case somebody get injured, or what if somebody gets COVID? It's COVID time, so like what I won't do is I won't throw myself in there not properly prepared or training. So I would like to be training for the fight. And if somebody gets injured, then I fill in. Um, and maybe like let's say it was a quick fight, then 2 months after that we book my fight, or if it was like somebody got injured or long drag out, then maybe we book another fight, a month after that or so, being that I already be in shape. So
Yeah, it's just tricky, right? Because there's no assurances. Like if they told
right.
you 100% you're fighting the winner and you could get that like in writing or something, obviously you'd be happy to wait like 6 to 9 months or longer or whatever. But that's not the way they do business over there, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, yeah. If that was the case, yeah, for sure we wait, because like I said, ultimately my thing has been to get a title shot. And I'm not worried about if I fight. I'm not if I fight, then I might mess up my opportunity to get a title shot. I'm not worried about that so much, because you can't think of things like that. Because let's say you don't, then you go in and fight and you got that in the back of your mind. So it's just I feel this is my most advantageous best move to make, but I haven't written off fighting again. I mean, it is what it is. Fight is fight at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that you say that too, because a lot of people would maybe say that about your situation, like Derek can't afford to take a loss right now. Look how long the build back up to this point would be. But if you feel that you're the best, you feel like you should be able to beat those guys, whether regardless of the order.
Yeah, for sure. But funny enough, is a guy like Jacare is a prime example. Is that he had a title shot. All he had to do was wait. He took a fight and he never ever got a title shot. But even let's go back to Jacare. Do you remember his fight with Jan Blachowicz?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Of
you thought
course.
won that fight?
I thought y'all won, I think, but it was
Okay.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, see, it goes both ways. But I thought Jacare won 100%. If you go by the scoring criteria, I think he won the first two rounds. Third round, he won that, and he tried to take the fourth and fifth off. So that's why they were like, all right, Jan was really active in the fourth and fifth. But let's say it was a close fight regardless. But
Yeah.
look how much, things change. It just shook his whole career up. He loses Jan in a close when Jan's the 205 champion. Then he goes get knocked out by Hollins, gets his arm broken by this young new Brazilian kid. Like, what I mean? Things can change so drastically and quick. So like sometimes it makes sense to be a little bit patient and go for the best possible position if you earn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I think you have earned it, and you're in a good spot too. Like people would say like, oh, maybe the Costa or Marvin Vittori winner like does something spectacular, and they're up there, but they literally like just fought him
Right.
against Izzy. It wasn't close. Like you've obviously done the work. I don't think anyone can deny you at this point. So, would your perfect scenario though be Izzy wins that fight? I think you can't rule out Whitaker, but he to me he wants to be active, so like that could maybe speed up the process. He likes to fight every few months, so like in terms of just the timing, I think that would ultimately be better for you. But obviously, you fought both those guys before. I'm sure you'd like to avenge both losses. So, is there one of those that means more to you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, me and Whitaker, it's funny, man. I remember I can see Whitaker's face. And this was like 5 or 6 years ago after our fight. I still remember the face. He looked at me like after the fight when we got to the locker rooms. He was like, damn, you could have knocked me out there. I got you. I mean, it was a tough one. But yeah, it was a crazy fight, man. That was a frantic, wild pace that I put on. Man, it was a crazy fight. But yeah, I would definitely like to fight Izzy again. I just know that fight, man, it left a sour taste in my mouth. It wasn't a good representation of myself. Izzy has a lot of hype, a lot of momentum. So, I like to cool that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'd love to be the person to give him his first loss at middleweight. Of course, we know he lost at 205. Is there like anything personal about that fight though? I know he's out here calling you Bumson and stuff, and it all stemmed back into like that hotel bar run-in you guys had years ago. So before the first fight, like, is there any of that lingering, or is it all purely competitive to you at this point?
It's all purely competitive. Yeah, I wanna make him eat his words. I want to give him a nickname. That's gonna stick with him also. You know what I mean? So like, I just know, man. I think this can be one of the biggest fights in UFC middleweight history. I think we get it done. I think like the action is gonna be there. Like I'm gonna be up for that fight. I'll put in a great training camp. The build up will be great. So yeah, I think it has a lot of potential.
For sure. And you mentioned one of the greatest fights in middleweight history. You look at your resume coming out of this fight, man. I mean, second most wins in UFC middleweight history, tied for the second most finishes. You're up there in bonuses. Like even though you should probably have even more bonuses, but we don't need to get into that whole thing. But like where do you feel you are right now? I know it's probably a hard question to ask, in the middle of your career, but do you feel like when people talk about the greatest middleweights in MMA history, Derek Brunson needs to be in that conversation?
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. Um, undoubtedly, for sure. You know, if you're thinking, you know, Anderson, Whitaker, um, myself, I don't know, Leota. Yeah, man, I've done
Bisping,
a lot.
maybe.
Bisping, yeah, for sure. Bisping, you know, guys that done a lot at middleweight. I stayed at middleweight my whole career. You know, I've been in this division. I fought everybody. I've got great wins. I've had losses, you know, but I've won way more than I lost. So yeah, I definitely, you know, I think, man, I never got the like, even if you say my Chris Weidman was champion, but my career was way more impressive, I would say. And there's nothing against Chris. Chris is a great competitor, but you know, if you talk about resume, you know, yeah, man.
Yeah, no, it's been a spectacular run and it's still not over. Two more questions for you, Derek, then I'll let you go. You mentioned on Twitter you would love to go to New Zealand and fight Izzy there. That's the only way it would kind of really settle the score. I know that might be like a pipe dream right now with COVID situation, everything, but when did that come to mind and why were you just like, don't only want to beat this guy, but I want to do it in his backyard?
Yeah, man, I was just thinking, I was just like, how bad I want that fight, how I know that like I can get the job done, you know, shock everybody, surprise everybody. And I'm so good at going in somebody's backyard, just silencing the crowd. You know, I'm not an a-hole with it, you know, but I'm going to enjoy the moment. But yeah, that's like the perfect scenario is fight Izzy in his backyard, avenge my loss, take the title, you know, all the marbles. That'll be lit.
Yeah, and then you guys could do the trilogy, and you'll get the pay-per-view points with the belts and everything, and it'll be good times. Actually, when do you get rid of the blonde? How long do you keep this for after the fight?
The blonde doesn't go anywhere as long as we winning. You know what I mean? The blonde is here to stay. Yeah, blonde Brunson undefeated. We don't even want to talk about it or discuss it, man. It's just this guy has never lost. Show me a clip with this guy losing. You know what I mean? Izzy might put up clips of some guy he head kicked. I don't know that guy. You know what I mean? I just know blonde Brunson has never lost, and I don't see him losing, man.
An all-time mythical fighter, better than highly motivated BJ Penn, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. All right, Derek, I appreciate the time, man.